but nonetheless, it changes the Clinton story altogether. Joining me now is Lawrence O'Donnell, former Senate Finance Committee Chief of Staff, and he's also executive producer of The West Wing. Terry Jeffrey, editor of Human Events. Larry Sabato, director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics and author of Get in the Booth. Larry Sabato, Clinton had the same responsibilities, similar information. This briefing that was posted in the 9/11 Commission really puts the lie to what Mrs. Clinton said.
I happen to agree with you. I thought the whole thing was ludicrous. I don't agree that it was planned. I think that's just Bill Clinton. Everybody who has ever worked with him has told me about his volcanic temper. The only equivalent in politics is John McCain's temper. But Bill Clinton has a horrible temper. He blows up. It's like a summer squall. You don't even see it coming. So I think they spun it once it was over to benefit them, but that doesn't mean that it was planned.
Lawrence O'Donnell, does that kind of spinning really help? I mean, again, Mr. Clinton himself said, look at the 9/11 Commission. The 9/11 Commission really contradicts what Mrs. Clinton said in her attack on President Bush. On substantive grounds, we'll let the politics fly just for a moment. We'll come back to it. On substantive grounds, Mr. Clinton was well briefed and failed to take action.
Well, Bill Clinton said that he failed. He said that before you said it here today. He said, I failed, and he said he's sorry for that. President Bush has never said anything like it, never said that he failed in the approach to 9/11. The country knows that he did, and that's why Bill Clinton now has more credibility on this, because he's admitting that he did everything he could, but it wasn't enough, and he should have done more. Bill Clinton is far more popular than President Bush is now, and so the country is actually responding, I think, on the Clinton side of this thing. But Rudy Giuliani has said just yesterday that he doesn't think we should be trying to blame one president or the other, that neither one of them got this figured out, neither one of them got this right, and the proof of that is the holes in the ground in New York City. The difference between Bill Clinton and George W. Bush is that Bill Clinton is telling you what he did do, is telling you what he didn't do. All they say in the Bush administration is, oh, we took it seriously, and they cannot point to a single thing they did other than demote Richard Clark in those first 8 months.
Well, wait a minute. Clark wasn't necessarily demoted. He left because he wasn't made Deputy Director of Homeland Security. I would argue that Mr. Bush has said that mistakes were made, but I am particularly interested in this clear 9/11 Commission contradiction of what Mrs. Clinton said. She said if her administration, if Mr. Clinton had known what Bush had apparently known, well, as it turns out, Mr. Clinton was briefed clearly, with greater clarity than Bush was briefed. Let me bring Terry Jeffrey in.
She's talking about a specific memo that President Bush got that Bill Clinton never saw.
Larry, look, I'll agree with Larry on one level, Lawrence O'Donnell on one level. You can't let Bush off the hook for not being more attentive to the threat of al-Qaeda before September 11th, but Bill Clinton is totally distorting the record in his tantrum on Fox News. People ought to look at Chapter 4 of the 9/11 Commission report and ought to read the footnotes, too, because on top of that memo you're talking about, Larry, it was in late July of 1998 that Osama bin Laden, al-Qaeda, attacked our embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killed a lot of people, not just Americans. Before that, in May and June of that year, Mary Jo White, who was the U.S. attorney up in New York, had drawn up an indictment of Osama bin Laden because we were going to go in and capture the guy at a place called Karnak Farms in Afghanistan. The CIA was ready to do it. We had Afghan tribals, had real-time intelligence on it, and the Clinton people got cold feet and they didn't do it.
He should have commanded. He should have issued an order. He is saying the CIA stopped him. That is something, Lawrence O'Donnell, that is something I don't understand. Look, Lawrence, I agree with you that what Rudy Giuliani said makes a lot of sense. My fervent hope and prayer is that we bring people together to win the war on terror and defeat the bad guys. Don't get me wrong. But I'm trying to straighten out the record here, and this is the part that bothers me.
Well, look, Bill Clinton says that the FBI and the CIA would not certify that they could absolutely be certain that Osama bin Laden was responsible for the coal within the time limits that they had.
But should that be a barrier?
Mary Jo White was appointed by President Clinton at Senator Moynihan's recommendation. She is a Democratic U.S. attorney.
I understand that, but Larry Sabato, we're going to get to you in the next segment about these Senate races. But look, Lawrence, I don't understand why Mr. Clinton would let the CIA works for him. He's the president. The FBI works for him. I know mistakes were made on all sides. That is not my point. I'm just trying to clarify the record because there are too many cheap shots here, and I don't like cheap shots. You know me, and you know that I hate that stuff. Anyway, we'll never settle it tonight. Our pals are going to stay. By the way, for more of my thoughts, you can check out my blog, moneypolitics.net. I've covered this whole issue. Up next, the Beltway is still